Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks a lot for the nice introduction and for having me on stage. My name is Marcel Münch, and yeah, I'm a founder based here in Berlin, and in 2016 I founded my own e-commerce application towards the Chinese market, and this is why I want to give you 10 learnings and 10 insights about whether you want to sell to a Chinese audience or just in general if you're curious about what's going on in digital China. Yeah, and maybe first a little bit of an introduction about this service. So it's an app for Chinese users which can be downloaded by Chinese and they download the app in order to find European products in the area of health and beauty. So it's lifestyle products such as cosmetics or health nutritions, and they are translated into Chinese. And then they can check out with payment methods such as Alipay. So it's very convenient for them, and they can just get products delivered overseas. And we work with startup companies from Berlin and also big manufacturers who have like 10% market share here in Germany. And this is the the service that we use to establish. And maybe you're wondering why there's also the Audi logo on the page. That's because we also got into some consulting projects on innovating with China digital consumer. That's kind of a side business that evolved from starting up in this sphere. And yeah, we went really popular in China as well because we had the chance to pitch on a Chinese TV show that's called Chuangyin Weilai, so it's a Dragon's Den in Chinese, and we had to pitch to Chinese investors. I can actually show you a video, it's coming here. So this is, yeah, do we have some sound? Okay. No worries. So I'm going to show you a little video about how we fly to Suzhou. So my co-founder Miriam and we had the chance to pitch to Chinese investors all in Chinese. So 40 minutes of pitching in Chinese, that was quite a challenge to us. And yeah, this is the video. So we start in Berlin, fly to Suzhou, and then this is the TV studio, and we had the opportunity to chat. Yeah. So yeah, obviously for this, this was for us a big marketing opportunity and marketing gag. In the end, we got one investor who actually wanted to invest in our startup, but as you know, the deals are made behind the scenes. So in the end, it doesn't turn out that this would be a healthy relationship. Anyways, we also got featured in like Business magazine here in Germany, and quite recently I got a little bit famous for announcing that Alibaba might invest in Zalando because the shares of the Zalando stock were really down, and Alibaba is more and more expanding overseas, so that brought us on a main title page of Handelsblatt. But let's jump into e-commerce in China. So just looking at those numbers, you see the scale of Chinese e-commerce. So the revenue of one day of Jingdong and Tmall, Alibaba, is exceeding right now, these are old numbers already, more than $30 billion in one day. So if you compare it to the revenue of Amazon and eBay on the entire year, it's already more than that. So this shows you how advanced e-commerce is in China already. And for those guys who don't know so much about it, it's also a very, very different ecosystem. So you have Tencent and Alibaba, which are the tech giants in China, and they have their own services and platforms which you may have never heard of before. For instance, like Tencent with WeChat, the messenger service, and Jingdong for the e-commerce part, and Alibaba, with which is invested in some sort of Twitter, Sina Weibo, and Tianmao, and Taobao, obviously, for their e-commerce platforms. And also, if you look at the social media sphere, lots of apps in different sectors that you possibly have never heard of before. And what is interesting here is that many of these apps, they overlap in functionality. So they're never only video live streaming or only chatting. Usually they combine it, for instance, with selling products online. So it's very different than what we see here in the West. And this is just to give you a little insight of what are the platforms in China. So if you want to sell cross-border overseas from, for instance, Germany into China, you might want to go on those platforms, and Tmall Global, which is owned by Alibaba, is the biggest platform, obviously. And then you also have players like, for instance, NetEase, Kaola, and, for instance, smaller platforms which are really trending right now, like Xiaohongshu. So that's the platforms in China that you may want to get on board in order to sell your brand. So let's jump into the 10 learnings we had during our journey of launching our app into the Chinese market and regarding e-commerce in general. So the first learning is that I showed you the big numbers of e-commerce in China, and it all seems really big and really exciting. But if you look into the numbers, you see that only 5% of those shops on the platforms in China actually make more than 10 million RMB. So that's roughly 1 million euros, more or less, in revenue. So you can see that if you want to be a winner on those platforms, you really need to think about how you can get in those top 5 or maybe 10%. Otherwise, your business will possibly never get break even. The second thing we also had to learn is that the competition in China is super, super intense. So the Chinese players, they don't wait for you. There's something new going on. There's new deals, and they will also play with different rules, right? So it's not like, okay, I'm just going into the market and I don't really need to care about what my competitors are doing because I'm from Germany. Everyone wants to buy my products. No, it's a really tough and fierce competition in China. The third thing is that those platforms in China are really not for everyone. So we sometimes have brands that are really small and they want to go to China, and it's really hard for them because some of the Chinese platforms wouldn't even accept that they open an account in China because they're too small. So for instance, Tmall from Alibaba is invite only. You need to have more than, let's say, roughly 100 million in annual revenue in order to be considered to open a store. And also on the other platforms, usually it's quite hard to get onboarded on these. So that's also the idea behind our app. We would like to make it more easy to get you into the Chinese market. The fourth point that we want to point out here is that return on investment in China can be really, really low. So you need to have a big marketing budget and a big marketing spending in order to make your brand visible. At the same time, you need to be aware that maybe the return and the revenues that you get in the first year, they will be not like what you possibly are used to in the West. So you can't just grow and reinvest the money that you make with your revenue. You really need to have deep pockets in the beginning in order to grow the brand. The fifth point is something that German brands really hate. In China, you need to give discounts. So it's part of the consumer journey. So they expect when they check out that you give them a discount or a coupon. And German brands usually don't like it because they think, okay, I'm not selling my products below the value that I know my products have. They're high quality and so on. But in China, you really need to play this game because that's considered kind of a cultural habit of online e-commerce. The sixth point is that you always need to be responsive and active. So you cannot just build a landing page and keep it the same every time and you just keep on selling stuff. Chinese consumers will get bored by that pretty quickly, and you are not standing out of the crowd if you're not changing the layout all the time or have new marketing activities going on. And also very, very important, you need to have great customer service. So usually before somebody purchases your product, they ask many, many questions. The seventh point is pretty much specific to if you want to design an app or a landing page for Chinese consumers. So we had to learn that we also had to design for trust, because trust is really an issue in China. And what we did is obviously put in some product description videos where we actually, as German founders, with our Chinese, we advertised the product, so that enabled some trust. And also we made the customer service very specific and very important part of our app. And also we put a comment section. Obviously, Chinese users really like to read product reviews before they buy. It's much more important than on Amazon, for instance. Yeah, and then you also need to show you have more and more of those comments and products and likes. So, you know, this big swarm effect, like Chinese really like to buy if they think, okay, this product is really, really hot and selling very well. And this correlates with one trend that we see evolving from China. So we're now talking about how Instagram is starting to get into e-commerce a little bit and adding a shopping functionality. There's an app in China, Xiaohongshu, which went big, I would say, in 2016. And they implemented, it's kind of a Pinterest, a Chinese Pinterest, where you could share products that you find overseas. And just within the first 2 years or something, they already implemented e-commerce functionality. So they're really, really quick in monetizing their services. And yeah, we can see that this social commerce thing is an innovation made in China, which they will possibly export into the world. One more point is regarding regulation. So expect 5 times, everything will take like 5 times longer in China. So that's to do with, if you want to be compliant with the regulation in China, opening accounts, hosting, maybe some license issues. Those kind of things are really a pain in the ass in China. You really need some more time to get everything right and everything solved. So it's not like just a startup way and launching quickly into China. You really need to spend more time than you would probably think of. Yeah, this point is that about marketing in specific. So you don't have the channels like Facebook or Instagram, which are blocked in China, which are really, really good marketing channels. So usually, for instance, with Shopify and Facebook ads, you can really build a business quite quickly, and it might be very profitable. In China, you're dealing with immature marketing channels. For instance, WeChat, but also Weibo. This is the backend of Weibo, which you're seeing here. It enables you to run some campaigns, but because China is so divided between Tencent and Alibaba, between those two ecosystems, and also because marketing works so different in China, you will get those really low return on investments, and you cannot just get ads in front of Chinese users and then sell your products. Okay, and last but not least, of course, WeChat is super important. So you need to know what WeChat does for you. I wouldn't say it's a great sales channel, to be honest. So for me, WeChat is more of a service application. So you can do many, many things. For instance, you can do stuff like buying your train tickets, your flight tickets. You can have great CRM functionalities within WeChat, but I don't see it as a way of selling your products to China. It's also incredibly difficult to build up a social media following in China. And yeah, but maybe one thing that is worth looking at are Chinese mini apps. So these are small apps and applications which can be launched within WeChat. So they're kind of disrupting the Apple App Store here, because it's no longer needed to download an app from the App Store. You can just launch it within WeChat. And this is maybe a good way. For instance, Adidas is doing it here for branding within WeChat. So that might be something that you would like to look up. So yeah, to summarize everything, it's my last slide. If you want to go to China, you need to learn about China. You need to test the product market fit in a lean way. I wouldn't recommend spending a lot of money in the beginning in terms of registering a company there. Instead, create user-centric solutions and build a product possibly with people who know about how to do this. Thank you very much. If you'd like to join, you can also get to meetup.com and join our China Digital Innovators Group, or add me on WeChat by scanning the QR code. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.